Welcome to the Moxie and Jana show.
I mean, we are spilling some realty up in her, okay?
So we have aptly named our little show, Spillin' Real Tea with Jana and Moxie.
Get it? Tune in and listen to us share all our crazy, wildly unbelievable crap that we see, do, and navigate in the insane world of real estate.
And we're talking everything.
Oh, the stories we will share.
Literally everything. Down to the fails only us real estate agents could make.
We got it all, y'all.
Straight out of KC, and we spillin' it.
Well, welcome. Here we are again.
Yeah. Here we are. We did it. We did it. Give me the cheer. Give me the cheer. We did it.
Hold on. I got to find it again. There it is. Okay, hold on. You want cheering?
Yeah. We did it. Okay, let me just tell you how proud I am of myself right now for accomplishing all of this. I have this up here.
You did a good job.
I've got a light. I've got a microphone. Girl, I literally was like panic attack. I've been here 45 minutes before we were even supposed to start trying to set all of this up. So I'm next level proud of myself. Let me just tell you.
I am so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I'm glad it's done. So here we are. Now I know how to do it.
We're here.
Whatever. We're just going to go with it.
You mentioned previously that you had watched the Kelsey documentary. I just watched it last night.
Yeah, that thing is amazing.
It was so good. Brian even stopped and sat down and watched it. And he was like, that was way better than I thought it was going to be. Like, what a story.
Did you hear that it's like the #1 documentary on Prime or whatever of all times? Like the #1 watch. Yeah.
I love it. I wish Travis had been in it a little bit more. Don't get me wrong. Gotta represent, with those fucking Eagles. We need some chopping. Anyway.
And trust me, Jana, whenever we went to the Super Bowl, we learned how to spell Eagles undoubtedly. If I did nothing else the whole time I was there, I learned how to spell Eagles. And then whenever we beat them, they stopped spelling Eagles. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, that happened.
So you actually went to that Super Bowl.
Sorry. Oh yeah, we've been to all 3 of them that they've been to. Yeah, we went to Miami and won. And that was amazing. That was actually Terry Bradshaw, played with Kenny's beard on the pregame, Fox Sports pregame. And we got on #1. Oh, and let me just tell you, at the first one, Miami, San Fran, their freaking fans are buttholes. You guys are turds. I could not believe the berating that we were getting when they were winning. And then whenever we started winning, we just did what Chiefs fans do, high-fiving each other, excited, never one time in your face, oh, yeah, shut up, blah, blah. But that's exactly what San Fran did. So bring it 49ers, Pumpkin. But we then went to the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, and that was the one where Patrick Mahomes scrambled. I think he had more running yards than anybody else on the field or something.
Yep.
And it was at Buccaneers, so it was technically a home game, and they weren't used to winning, and so they really didn't know how to act when they were winning. So they just kind of
give you some high vibes.
Yes. They just kind of sat there and cheered, but nothing like what you would have expected for if it had been a home Chiefs game at a Super Bowl. But anyways, they were okay. They weren't bad at all. And then we just went to the one in Arizona, and the Eagles fans were nice. It was just annoying listening to them spell Eagles over and over and over and over. I mean, it was relentless the amount of times they spelled Eagles. So whatever. But they weren't bad fans, and we had the best seats ever for that Super Bowl. It was it was really cool. So we'll go back if they go back, because money is, I hate money. No, I'm just kidding. I love money.
I do love money. It needs to love me more.
Yeah. Hard. Preach.
So we're sitting there watching this documentary, right? And, they're showing clips from the game, the last 30 seconds. And I swear to God, I was like, get it. I've seen this damn game already. Okay. And Brian's looking at me. He's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, it's just pick me up again. I'm like, I can't handle it. I'm kind of a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Anywho, Good times. Our topic for today, self-selected, I know, so I sprung it on you, but you're amazing on the spot, so we're just going to like roll with it. I don't know if you've had much time to look.
Let's go.
But, okay.
Bring it on.
So what we're talking about today, overcoming the trials and tribulations of the real estate market with creative sales strategy scripts and maybe the right brokerage for you. What do you think?
Oh,
It's going to be a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that is a lot. But let's dive in. You've
Let's
had
do
a
it.
second to think about it. So why don't you start us off and then I'll just chime in as we go. How about that?
Well, okay.
Because that's a lot.
It is a lot, but it kind of encompasses, I feel like, where a lot of agents are right now in terms of I've seen so many people like saying, I'm getting out of the business. I'm putting my license in referral. I've taken 3 other part-time jobs to just make ends meet. Like it's not a soft market. It's not like a layup that we had, not to mix sports metaphors here, but it's not quite the layup we had for the last couple of years. Right. But there's one thing in particular that I've been noticing. And so I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. With interest rates, I feel like have pushed a lot of sellers who bought homes in the 2020 to 2022 time range, right? Because they're all in like sub 4%. And in my case, I have a seller client who has decided not to sell because they have a 3.675% interest on their current mortgage. Their payments are like $1,400 a month, but they want to downsize. And so when they go to talk to the lender, they get pre-approved for half of what their house is worth right now. To stay.
Oh, no.
And it's not so much pre-approval, it's to stay at or below their current mortgage, right? So they're trying to stay under that $1,400. They're going to downsize. They want to downsize their payment. So I feel like even though they have a very good reason for wanting to downsize, they're backing off because they just can't stomach paying twice as much in interest, even though that's not really, you and I both know that's not really the point. They seem very rate conscious right now. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about ways where we can engage people that do need to buy, right? And so if we think about in this kind of a market, who are you focusing on in your lead generation efforts to kind of help bolster your business, focusing on those people that actually do need to move right now? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about this because in our team meeting this last week, one of the girls asked me, she said, Moxie, how come these people who need to purchase aren't understanding the advantage that they actually have right now? And this is what I told her. And I'm just trying to be as honest as possible. The problem is if we as agents try to educate them, we almost come off as salespeople and as pushy. And we don't want to be car salesmen, right? So what I was telling her is we understand that right now there's actually a lot of opportunity for a buyer that maybe doesn't have as much money up front. Because if you're finding a house that's 30 days on the market, 45 days on the market, those sellers, if they have to sell, they're willing to pay closing costs. And if you think about it, the way the rates are right now, I'm going to give very rough numbers. Let's say you can buy a $200,000 house and your payment is $1,200 a month and your interest rate isn't ideal, but you don't have any competition. You can get your closing costs paid so you can get into it relatively cheap. You may even be able to have a seller give a buy down, a rate buy down, so they may help lower your interest rate a little bit
in the short term.
And you're getting into a home and everything's good to go. Or let's talk about in the spring. Now, this is all obviously projection. We have no clue.
There's no crystal ball.
Exactly. But let's pretend like we're talking about this same buyer in the spring. Okay. They still have the exact same buying power. They're still pre-approved for the exact same amount. But let's just pretend like the interest rates, they've dipped and now the market is flooded with buyers. Well, that $200,000 house now has 8 offers. And now maybe you're paying $210,000, $215,000, and you're not getting your closing costs paid. You're also not getting any points to buy down. So at the end of the day, is waiting until interest rates go down, is that really what your objective is? Because what if they only go down half a point, but that's enough to flood the market with buyers? And now you're in this big competition. What I want to do is talk to the person 18 months ago who was under contract for a $125,000 adorable home, lower interest rates, They were under contract and they freaked out. Okay. They wanted their payment to be at like 800. You come to today, now that payment would probably be, the house is no longer 125,000. I've been keeping up with it. It is no longer 125,000. Now their payment would probably be close to 1,100. So $300 a month is what they would have saved had they purchased whenever I suggested heavily. So that's the part that it's kind of a predicament. I just want to benefit my clients. So that buyer that didn't move into that home 18 months ago is still living in a not so great 1-bedroom apartment, paying somebody else's mortgage and not building their own future. So I'm focusing on trying to educate the more apprehensive buyer at this point. But the problem is how do you do it without not sounding like a salesperson? So, girl, I don't freaking know. I honestly, it's so rough.
Yes, you do.
But it's hard.
I mean, what you just said though about educating, I do think that there is a big, all those people that came before us that were like acting like used car salesmen, right? And are like, buy. You know, when we say things like, when you're in a rental, you're paying 100% interest. That sounds salesy.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true, but it sounds salesy. So like trying to educate people on like the intricacies of the market and like, you know, we're flowing through it every day. And I think this is true in almost any situation in a transaction. We're very comfortable in the process, right? We're very conscious of the process, but we're also very comfortable with it. And most people aren't. And so they come to us like already a little nervous about the fact that they don't really understand the process. And now we're trying to tell them or educate them on here's some intricacies that we can play with, you know, like a little bit of a chess game when we're moving through our transaction to help you. And I think a lot of times they think we're doing it for our benefit. And, you know, my benefit, your benefit doesn't come till the very, 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 very end. After the field goal has been kicked, we get our benefit. You know what I mean? Well, and that 18-month ago buyer, when and if they do decide, I've still been in the trenches with him for 18 months.
Yep.
Not including the 3 months we looked at homes. So now you're talking 21 months that I've been keeping in contact, sending, you know, just little touches here and there. There has still been time, effort, education, love. I'm not out here pushing, but let's talk about, we only get paid after that field goal. I've had some people literally look at homes for 18 months, for 18 consistent months. And I'm there. I'm here for it because my goal is to make sure they're getting the home that they absolutely want. In fact, one of my buyers that looked for 18 months, she texted me the other day with a sunset behind her home. And she goes, "Aww. This was worth every single struggle we went through." And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, what it's about.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly. So it's interesting that people will think that we're just out here being car salesmen or we're just like raking in the money. But you have to think there's so many times where I am putting in months of effort, hours of time, you know, missing things with family and friends to go show one house or two houses to a buyer who may or may not buy right now, but they will eventually buy.
When we think about who is buying right now, you know, focusing on the buy side for a hot minute, you know, who is buying right now and how do you reach out to them, right? And so there's always going to be, no matter the market, someone's going to need to buy, someone's going to need to sell, right? But if you could, as an agent, focus on those people that are most likely to buy and sell right now, they're going to be your renters who are tired of throwing away their money. Those are also easier to educate because of several reasons, but one of which is they don't have this hang up of 3.675% from 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Right? They don't.
Right.
Open to being educated about what it takes to buy a home. There's properties in their price points. I think it's first-time home buyers and renters, military veterans, because the interest rates are actually lower for vets than the market rates are. And then probably the third group of people are people who are relocating. The third and fourth, relocation. And then the fourth one would be employer-assisted housing, approaching employers to create housing programs for their staff and their folks. So for me, those are the four pillars of people that on the buy side anyway, that I'm focused on right now. And I think that's also what I've been telling my team. So I didn't know if there was kind of like a strategy behind your lead generation right now, or what you might be looking forward to for the rest of the fourth quarter to build up momentum toward the end of the year and into the first of the year.
Okay, you really want it?
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. Are you ready?
Give it to me, baby. Hold on. Wait. Ready?
I don't have
Do
one.
Fuck.
Okay, so we want real. There's real. I don't have strategy. So everybody can chastise me. They can throw stones. They can do whatever they want. I'll be honest, Jana.
That was like the biggest letdown ever, Moxie.
Or the best and most true answer ever. Because how many agents out there that are, I'm at 37 homes that I've sold so far this year. How many agents are doing over 30 deals and they're like, I don't have a strategy. I imagine if I had a strategy, I can't even function. So that is the worst and the best thing that I could possibly say right now is I don't have one. Oh, I know that my goals are pretty fun to deal with. If I'm being just very, very honest with you, more honest than most people probably ever would be in the position that I'm in. I'm more focused on goals than I ever have focused on strategy. I have always just focused on goals and hustle. I think that if you can maintain consistency and you can maintain and look at your goals, you can accomplish a lot, but it also shows you can also be a little bit of a disaster and not have this stringent plan on this is what's next and this is who I call. And I'm not saying that's what you do, but I know there are some agents out there that do, and man, they are killing it. Yeah. But I don't have to be killing it to make a living. I can just sell, 30, 40, maybe 50 homes a year, and I'm pretty happy with that. And I know that's a lot for some agents, but that's my pretty consistent. But I'm saying you don't have to be this perfect, here's the next thing. Girl, I don't have a strategy. That's just the truth of it.
That's funny. Terrible. I mean, we do obviously, have a strategy, but at the same token, I think what you said is really, really important. You can, where there's a will, there's a way, right? I mean, that's what that comes down to. You're motivated, you're energetic, you're excited, you're engaged with your clients and with your sphere, right? So you very easily engender trust and build great rapport very quickly. So I think in that regard, it works for you, right? I'm very much, I mean, I'm not like, A, B, C, D, E, really. But at the same time, I have a tendency to want to do all of the things all at once. And I require some blinders, right? So when I'm looking at, here's what my business has been like all year. I think I'm at like 26 transactions this year. When I'm looking at my year, I'm like, where did these come from? Well, some of them were planned. I've been nurturing them for years. Some of them just fell out of the sky because of family situations or issues or deaths or things like that, sad situations. And some of them have been really great situations where they're like, oh my God, I'm pregnant and we need a bigger house. Now I can't wait. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a process by which we can apply some focus to just make sure that our efforts aren't provided to folks who aren't really ready right now, right? And may still need that nurture.
And I guess the argument could be technically made that I do have a strategy, and that is I do focus on my sphere. I do post on Facebook.
Let's not forget about our COI, right? Or our SOI, whatever you call it. I'm from apparently the old school days where we called it your circle of influence and not your sphere of influence, but whatever. Sphere is too hard for me to say. I say circle. Circle's easy. But we can't forget about those people. We still have to engage and work with them and give them, opportunities to get more information and education on their own properties and their homes and all of those things. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And they love you, right? They love, hopefully they love us as much as we love them.
Sometimes we don't love them.
I mean,
though.
And if that's the
I've
case,
only ever fired one client.
Yeah, I hope that's reciprocated. If I don't necessarily like you, I'm okay if you don't like me. But the one thing that I realized is for the first 3 years of my business, I wasn't cultivating my sphere at all. Mm-hmm. I wasn't touching, them at all. They weren't hearing from me. It was just sell a house, move on. And then I had a really big experience with a family. And that experience, hands down, changed everything for me in real estate. What I realized is this is not just like a transaction, which is very easy as an agent to kind of have that mentality of this is just a transaction. I had a listing for sale And this family called and they were like, hey, we just drove past this house and then we also saw your billboards. We really feel like we need to talk to you. And that's like the first one that it's ever actually called me straight off my billboard. They got under contract on the home. It didn't work out through inspections and she was devastated. So about 6 months later, she called and she was like, hey, are you still an agent? I'm like, yep, we really need to buy a house. Okay, can you tell me why? Because last time we didn't really get a lot of information. She had 3 amazing children. And she said, we are living in the worst part of a specific city that I won't dog on it, but she said it's just so unsafe. The landlord won't fix anything. It's unsafe for our children to be outside. We are living in shambles. And obviously at that point, your heart goes out as the agent, right? That's how it always is because we're humans. Found them a home, perfect house. And this is where it changed for me, Jana. She said right before closing, where's the nearest post office? And I don't know why, but that hit me like a sack of bricks. They have to find a new school, a new post office, a new grocery store, potentially a new church. You're helping change every single aspect of their lives. I was so humbled at that moment to be a part of that for her. So not only I'm getting chills just thinking about this. Not only was I able to help get her and her family out of a not so great living situation, I realized I am a true part of where these children will be raised. I was so blown away at how much that impacted me because it became very real at that moment. And so that to me makes this job worth every single second, make every single effort worth it. I am elated that we were able to be a part of changing their lives. And I don't know, it sounds so corny, but it just really does touch me. That's why I pour into my clients because I love them more than they probably love me.
It's funny because I actually say that to people. I'm like, you're thinking about your clients more than they're thinking about you. So when you're scared to pick up the phone and call them or scared to email them because you think you're bugging them, I promise you're thinking about them more than they're thinking about you. Just do it anyway. Well, as we're thinking about like how we're moving into the fourth quarter now, and obviously realizing that, we want to finish strong for 2023 and set things in the right place for 2024. What are some creative ways that you're lead generating or deploying to get more customers or just to get in front of more people? Is there anything creative that you're currently doing? I've got some ideas, but
I try to keep it very simple and just, Facebook, reach out and random stuff. So what about you? What are some creative things you're doing?
So we started doing something toward the end of this. Well, it's probably about mid-year that's really been working. And I've whenever I tell people this, they're like, why would you do that? But it's actually getting a lot of calls and I'm getting a lot of interactions with past clients that I'd never had before. So one of the creative things that we're doing is sending out just sold, just listed postcards, not just to the area around the property that was just sold, but my COI gets a postcard every time we just list or go under contract. If we're on the listing side, once we go under contract, and then once we sell as well. And
nice.
And people are like, oh my God, I get so many postcards from you. You're doing so great. And I'm like, well, what do you got going on? Do you have an aunt? And I've had so many referrals from just doing that. And I think that that's helped quite a bit. And I think that'll continue, definitely continue. And we're focusing, like we pulled all of our funds out of the big Z. We pulled all of our funds out of the big R. Like we're not doing any of that at this point. We're very, very, very focused on COI and building our systems right now, rebuilding a couple of systems now to position us better for 2024 and making sure that we're providing a great client experience.
Work hard, be kind. That's all I can say. Work hard, be kind. Work hard, be kind. What I said was work hard, be kind.
Well, but I think that segues really well into, do you feel like there are things that, obviously this time of year, we're also in brokerage, what I call brokerage changing season, where agents are more likely to make a change in between October and January than any other time of year, primarily because that's generally when business slows down. We're evaluating our numbers, we're looking at our tools, yada, yada, yada. How much do you think a brokerage not does, but can play in that decision? So some agents are like, oh, I'm all about the cap. I'm all about the split. I'm all about this. I'm all about that. Do you think that the brokerage can provide much more support to agents? And do you think they do?
I think most brokerages are kind of tapped out on their forward thinking. I keep hearing just these old school mentalities consistently across the board. And that's fine. It's working for them, but it's going to stop working for a lot of them. And I think it's going to potentially stop working for a lot of them way sooner than they think. So personally, I think there are some brokerages that are tapped out on their abilities, and the older agents that are comfortable with it and are okay with it, I think will remain. But I think newer, innovative agents that want a little bit of a different experience are going to go to maybe different platform-based brokerages potentially. And so I think that some of these brick and mortars are just not forward thinking enough. I think they're just so set in stone because it's worked for 40 years. Well, there's some changes about to be made in this market. So is your 40-year-old working going to still work? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
And I think we're about to run into this like perfect storm, right? And we're kind of already seeing it in the news and in some of our realtor mastermind groups as well. Like with everything that's coming down from the DOJ and the NAR lawsuit, sellers can negotiate all of the commission, which they've always had the ability to do. But now we're making it very, 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 very apparent that you do not have to offer co-op compensation to a buyer's agent. The buyer should pay their own agent. I don't know how you feel about that, but I actually agree. I can't wait for that day because I think it feels weird right now that the seller, if I have the buyer, the seller's paying my commission. They're motivating me to make sure I go through this transaction. I'm not saying that that's true, but that's the intent behind it, right? I think with that change coming down the pipe, we're already seeing our brokerage included new documents that are being drafted to kind of help educate and elevate that conversation around broker compensation for buyers and for sellers. You take that and then you couple it with brokerages who are stuck in this like 1950s mentality of there's only one right way to do real estate. And it's just simply not fucking true. And I'm going to say it like that. It's not fucking true. There are plenty of other brokerages that have delved into these niche marketplaces, that delved into these niche areas and really built quite a substantial business model that is both profitable and it takes care of the customer and their needs. And I think we're starting to see that elevate and come across the board. So like, for example, with our current brokerage, Real Broker, technology is the focus. And it's not technology to replace any one thing. It's technology to support the agents and their customers in their transaction and beyond, right? And doing that, I think will help solidify the value that the listing agent or the buyer's agent has in that transaction. Maybe it'll help elevate that conversation with the seller that you don't have to offer co-op compensation, but I'd recommend we offer something, or I feel strongly that we offer something. Those are conversations, but at the end of the day, it's still up to the client whether or not they want to do it. But I think giving the agents the support to both understand how to have that conversation with the client, understand the intricacies and the nuances associated. And I think that's one thing that Real Broker does for us. I really do. With Sharon's down market playbook, with all of the tools and marketing materials that were given, with Leo, with the announcement of Leo, I think we're really trying to bolster the agent's business. They can make decisions and move quickly and get out in front of people as fast as possible. That's what I see. I do think a brokerage has a very big impact on an agent's business, but I don't think it's the impact most people think about.
This whole DOJ thing, this old DOJ, goodness. My only concern with it, and this is something we're just going to have to learn, and this is like surface level stuff, but my biggest concern is those first-time home buyers that don't have the additional funds. And I think that's consistently what people are kind of talking about when they're talking about it. Hey, Bob, you want to buy a house, you have down payment, and you have closing costs, and you have to also pay my fee. So that's the only thing that like is kind of worrying me, because then we're I don't want to say putting the buyer in a bad position, but we're just kind of making it so Bob, who's been saving for 5 years to buy a house now has to save for an additional 2 more years. So my concern is if they make the buyer pay all of it, it's just going to not do as good for buyers.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is a really good point in the sense that that is what everyone's saying, right? Now buyers aren't going to be able to buy. We're going to be hindering buyers from their ability to purchase a home. We're going to, make it virtually impossible for them to do so. And while I hear that, I also know that in the face of adversity, there's always an opportunity, right? And in this particular situation, I think we'll see a couple things change. I think we'll have just like today where buyers can put their closing costs essentially into their loan by having the seller pay for them, right? Which is essentially what they're doing. Something like that will continue to take place. I think we'll see some changes in Fannie and Freddie guidelines around maximum compensation, which today they max it out at 8%. I think that might change because you want to give the buyer the ability potentially and unfortunately finance their agent's compensation. But it's very similar to that agent has to be able to provide a service that is actually valuable. The client has to recognize that value and offer and be welcome wanting to pay it. But for agents that don't take that care, that don't have that great client experience, that's going to be their number one problem. And so when I see a lot of agents like posting in our mastermind groups, all pissed off and like buyers are getting screwed, they're not going to be able to do, give it like 3 months after whatever happens, give it like 3 months. The lending institution and industry will come up with options. There'll be third parties in place that will help come up with options. There'll be other more creative opportunities, right, to make sure that a buyer gets, because what we don't want to see happen is what we had back in the day where the buyer's agent is a sub-agent of the seller. And back in the day, that's how that worked, right? And that's how we got here, actually. So I'm excited to see what changes happen in our marketplace. But I do think that's why I say, like, right now, these next 3 to 4 months are so, so, so important for agents to really build out that client experience.
Yeah. And if you
it's going to become key.
And if you haven't already started that, you are definitely behind the curve for sure. There is no, and you're totally 100%. Right. The market, lending, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, third party, everybody's going to pivot. Everybody's going to figure out a way to make this work. We hope. They're either going to or they're not. If they don't show up to the table, there's a different conversation to be had. And if that means they're not showing up to the table to help buyers understand and figure this out, that means we have a lot less people buying homes. Well, we already have a lot less people buying homes. So how in the world is that going to help? So if they don't show up to the table, none of us are eating. I don't know what else to say.
But I do think, I think the flip side of that too, we're talking about like what things can be put in place to help a buyer, achieve the ability to pay their agent. But I mean, if we take and kind of flip that on its head and look at what does the buyer gain from this situation? What does the buyer gain from this outcome? And in my opinion, the buyer now will fully understand that their agent is working for them, which we all are. Don't get me wrong. But when money is money and agents get commission breath, we all have seen it. We've experienced it. We know what it looks like.
Oh my gosh. I just dealt with a commission breath agent on a buy side. And I just thought, what is happening? Am I in a twilight zone right now? As a listing agent, I should not be able to smell your commission breath on the listing side. Okay. I can't imagine what your buyer felt like, but whatever.
Exactly. I mean, that it's a real thing. So, I mean, imagine now that your client as a buyer, I am paying my agent. I know that my agent is not getting paid until I buy a house. There's no extra incentive there. There's nothing else happening behind the scenes. That's how I'm getting represented. And I know that my agent is working 100% in my best interest because I'm the one paying them.
Right. And we are.
I think that is a big deal. It's a little mind shift.
Yeah. And we are working in their best interest. I mean, that hopefully all agents are, because that is our, I know they're not always, but I feel like I definitely know I am for sure. Whew. So, that's an interesting thought process that will listen. If you're not already working in your agent's or your client's best interest, you're not going to be. So I don't care where compensation comes from. If you already have the mentality of, I don't really care what this deal looks like for my buyer, I'm going to get it to the finish line for that paycheck no matter what. you are not going to survive any of this. So if they're already not great agents, they're probably going to continue to not be great agents, and y'all need to find a different agent. Just call Moxie or Jana, whatever.
Or Jana. I think just a quick plug for Real Broker, which we're not like really trying to do like a super hard plug here, but
work hard,
at the
be
same
kind.
time,
Work hard, be kind.
That is huge. And I wanted to tie that back because as we're moving into this strange new world where everybody's paying for their own agents more than likely, and we've got all these new rules and documents in place to kind of help ensure everyone knows that that's the case, why not be at a brokerage that already supports you in doing that and making sure that you are providing simply great service?
Right. Simply great service. So, work hard, be kind. Simply great service. True story. I didn't even know we were going to be talking about this. So the fact that I put this one up specifically, that's just whatever. That's weird. Had no idea.
It's working for it.
True story.
Awesome.
I think we wrap up because we got a Chiefs game to get to. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
We know you're probably potty watching or avoiding doing something domestic today, and we're glad you found us instead.
If you've got a crazy real estate story to share,
burning questions you want the real tea spilt on,
or maybe you want to sponsor our little production, we want to hear from you. Shoot us an email so that we can collaborate. And until next time, guys,
we'll be a hot mess, and you keep doing you, boo-boo.
Make it a great day.